Good evening. It is 5:04, and we're calling the special meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this meeting is a work session to discuss the strategic plan status update. We will begin by starting with a roll call for attendance. Please indicate your presence by saying present. Director Cook? Please indicate that Director Cook is absent. Director Williams?
Present.
Vice President Gregory?
Present.
And I am present. We will start with having Superintendent Bella.
Thank you. Thank you so much, members of the board and our team. Thank you for being here tonight. I just wanted to take a little bit of a historical walk from not only this last year, but previous years when we first started with our strategic plan. Recall we had community, staff, and others that developed specific goals in our strategic plan. We also talked about this year in how do districts measure the progress that they're making on strategic plans. We developed the key performance indicators. Each year we've been providing not only the board, but our community through our dashboard and others ways to be able to share how we're doing as a system. I'm pleased to have our team here today, third of this meeting, which we do each year, and I'm really excited about just where we are today. And today is about giving a brief overview of where we are and showing the progress that we're making as a system. So thank you to the board for championing that process. So with that said, I will turn it over to Mr. Pan to begin our presentation this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent. And I don't have much more to say to that, except that we're grateful for our colleagues being here to share with you the work that has been accomplished this year. With that, I'll turn it over to Sarah Duma.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Pan, President Margell, members of our board, Superintendent Vela, and Ms. Curry. We are excited here today to bring you our priority initiative leaders. They're here to actually really kind of walk through with you the progress made this year, how that aligns with our metrics, and really as we close out the school year, their next steps with their projects. To remind the board, these priority initiatives are current, active projects with key milestones and deliverables within the project framework. With that, I would like to ask the board to just hold questions until the very end, as we do have a lot of presenters this evening, and we want to make sure they all provide you that thorough update that they hope to present to you. With that, I will turn that over to Dr. Christine Avery to present our instructional leadership. Goal 1.
Great, thank you, Sarah, and good evening. I am Christine Avery, Executive Director of School and Leadership Success, and I support 14 of our 29 elementary schools. I'm here to present our team's work, and when I refer to our team, the acronym is EDSLs, and so I'm referring to my 3 colleagues and myself. As an EDSL team last summer, we thought about how do we provide professional learning to our school leaders. And we thought about the fact that professional learning comes in 3 primary forms: one-on-one, small group, and whole group. We already had really good routines for many years with the weekly one-on-one check-ins. We've always had the monthly levels meetings. It was the small group professional learning that was a gap in our overall program of professional learning for school administrators. And when you think about all 3 of those different formats of professional learning, when you put them together, we call that our Instructional Leadership Academy. And we thought what was important as we built in the small group was to have a through line and a connection in all of it. And so over the summer, we thought about what would be a really high leverage instructional leadership strategy that if all principals and assistant principals were proficient, distinguished, we would have a positive impact on teaching and learning. We identified that informal feedback is a high leverage strategy for improving teacher practice. At the elementary level and at the secondary level, we had that same focus, but we entered it through 2 different doors, really around readiness and size of the school. We know the secondary schools are like a small city, and they're very complex and dynamic. And so that is why I'm going to begin with secondary. They launched their small group work by focusing on targeted feedback cycles. And I forgot to mention, let me back up, the small group work was designed by taking our school administrators, principals and assistant principals, putting them into small groups, and then 4 to 5 times this school year, that small group met at a different school site. They engaged in a half day of learning together, learning walks, and then protocols around the topic I'll now explain. So at the secondary level, they started with what we call a targeted feedback cycle. And that is selecting one teacher, engaging in a 2 to 3 observational cycle around one very discrete, bite-sized instructional strategy that teacher could learn and practice and get feedback. And so that is their primary focus the first few months of the year. At the elementary level, we entered it through the door of routines, establishing the habit and the routine of school administrators being in every classroom every week, giving informal feedback that is specific, targeted, timely, and actionable, and tracking that. So they have a way to know what their progress is. And with both efforts, it's a 5-minute informal observation and feedback. It's not a part of the formal TPEP evaluation process. It's personalized to the needs of that teacher in a really safe, trust-building manner. Halfway through the year, elementary added targeted feedback cycles, and secondary built in the regular weekly routine. We had great success, and at this time, we are surveying school administrators to understand how to bring this into next year and continue to grow and deepen the work. As you can see, the data showed 95% said that yes to significantly yes, that these learning walks, the small group professional learning we added into our overall program of professional learning, positively impacted their instructional leadership. So we're really excited, and we're working on narrowing the vision for next year right now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Rochelle Yates. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction. I'm here to speak about K-12 literacy. I'd also like to acknowledge Karen Stevens, our Assistant Director, who's been a really integral part of this leadership. So this slide highlights our current literacy work and where things are heading really through the lens of sustainability and refinement. The focus this year has been strengthening our literacy instruction across K-12. At the elementary level, that's meant continued implementation of CKLA, which is grounded in the science of reading. So far, based on observations during instructional learning academies throughout the year and time spent in classrooms, we're seeing encouraging progress. Teachers are building confidence and students are engaged in literacy instruction. Based on the findings from the comprehensive review that was conducted at the end of last year, some areas we've continued to refine this year include writing, formative assessment, and support for our multilingual learners. This has involved some targeted professional learning on these topics, intentional school support, as well as collaboration with our MLE team to build internal capacity around the Be Glad strategies and how they can be incorporated to support our multilingual learners. At the secondary level, the work this year has focused on integrating our updated Washington State Learning Standards into the existing frameworks. So students are experiencing more consistent, standard-aligned literacy practices across the system. This work will continue into next year for full implementation in the 27-28 school year. And that's going to align really nicely with our standards-based learning work. When we look closely at student data, specifically our Spring iReady data, while proficiency rates are not yet where we want them to be, across upper elementary we're seeing strong growth. Students are meeting and exceeding expected growth rates in some places. What's particularly encouraging is that in several schools we're seeing acceleration. In some cases, students are growing at nearly twice the expected rate, One third grade cohort our team has supported closely reached close to 190% of typical growth and over 100% stretch growth. That's a strong signal that when students have consistent access to high quality instruction, they can accelerate, which helps point us to how we can continue to support schools in intentional ways. Looking ahead, the work continues to centre on using these insights to refine our support. The focus on strengthening writing instruction, discussion routines, formative assessment, and multilingual learner supports is growing across schools and provides us with opportunity to build on existing strengths. Additionally, these areas are shaping ongoing professional learning and how we provide support to our schools. In closing, we're seeing growth, and in some cases, accelerated growth, which is encouraging. At the same time, we know students need to reach proficiency, and that continues to guide where we focus. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Marcy Burrill, Assistant Director in Teaching and Learning for Mathematics, K-12. And for anybody in the room that didn't know, I love almost everything math. But I do recognize that math has a bit of a PR problem. We have heard some of this coming from our students in the fall when we did some student voice surveys. We heard things like, I'm so bad at math. Our question was, what do you think of when you hear the word math? And one said, I'm so bad at math. Lots of copies of the same math I've already done. My mind says, oh great, another boring hour. I feel like I'm being tortured. Okay, let's get this over with. Obviously, that's not all the comments, but those are the things that tell us something we need to know. We need to listen. It's critical that we shift this narrative, and we know that students' thinking and thoughts and ideas are central to how we engage them and how we make a difference for them in their lives. And so began our journey with building thinking classrooms for upping that engagement and bringing joy into their learning experience. In this more formal phase of the initiative, data collected ranges not just from those surveys of student voice and ideas, but everything from our achievement data to self-assessments and much more. So what are some of the specific? We know that student engagement has been robust. That's been apparent from the start. What are some of those specific measurable things that we've seen success in so far? Some of those I can report here today include efficiency with our instructional time. Showing up with things like students being able to quickly find their groups they're working in, quickly engage with those groups, and knowing their roles and how to proceed. Things like being able to use student thinking within the launch and setting of a task so that they feel the relevancy and the belonging in that place. We've also seen some iReady benchmark data as a positive growth area in student outcomes, especially in this early phase with some of our educators that are early implementers of this work. We're seeing some cases where even individuals are outpacing their own growth from previous years, as well as approaching some close to double of like cohorts. So what about that PR problem? We surveyed again this spring, and some of the things that stood out that gave me joy, that gave me that purpose and meaning to continue listening and continue driving forward. When we asked them what feels different about math this year compared to other years, students shared things like the different types of teaching. I like this way more because it's easier to understand. Finally, it's a challenge. Ahora me siento bien para preguntar preguntas. Now I feel good about asking questions. Oh my gosh. Okay, BTCM feels new. It feels funner. Another question we asked, working together on whiteboards this spring, what do you notice? Students shared things about appreciating the chance to work together, make connections, and help each other. And calling out the diverse ideas that come from different people for different ways of thinking. They said things like, students work differently. They think harder. And it's really nice working together, and it's fun thinking out loud, and you learn from your mistakes. Oh, hats off to that one. So our data-informed next steps came from the same sources. We saw those strengths, and we know that there's areas for growth for a lot ahead. We have known from the start that consolidation or summary of a lesson is one of the more tricky, nuanced, complex parts of teaching, especially in math, and it's very essential to the learning and moving that needle. Some of the specific areas needing for growth that showed up in our data showed the need to support staff in providing meaningful extensions to differentiate the learning further. Pushing to support productive struggle, build that stamina, build that persistence, build that pull away from over-reliance on the adults in the room. That would show up in things like making purposeful decisions around when to use direct instruction and explicitly teaching students how to get themselves unstuck, not just assuming we can tell them to and they will. That includes redirecting students when they ask questions that might enable them to just sit back. Those are both examples of productive struggle in learning. And productive struggle is that place where engagement and just the right amount of challenge meet. For students, particularly those served in multilingual education and inclusive education, the instructional practices highlighted in this initiative include increased exposure to language from multiple voices, access to multiple modes of communication with peers, talking, writing, drawing, gesturing, supported by MLE strategies and the collaboration amongst our teams to do so. Purposeful instruction on skills like collaboration, risk-taking, and providing evidence for reasoning supported with feedback structures, and much more. This is the experience that will continue to propel that acceleration of learning, and it's what our students are asking for. We can see that clearly. Thank you for this chance to speak with you tonight.
Thank you very much. And please indicate for the meeting notes that Director Cook joined us remotely as of 5:20.
Yeah, I did have some difficulty getting in. There was no link, so that is the reason for my delay.
Good evening. I want to bring us back to the context for this priority initiative, multi-tiered system of supports. And there was a need and a desire to create a shared vision as well as common language and definitions, guiding principles, focused on best instructional practices as well as aligned district resources across schools. And so thinking through what a holistic and integrated approach to student supports looks like in terms of not solely looking at a child based on their academics or based on their behavior or based on their mental health, but all the things that encompass who our students are as people and having a human-centered approach, this priority initiative was birthed. There has been significant work to ensure that we're aligning our MTSS structure to not only OSPI's 5 domains, but also the needs in our district. OSPI does have a MTSS framework, and it focuses on the 5 domains of team-driven shared leadership, data-informed decision-making, family, student, and community engagement, as well as continuum supports and evidence-based practices. And so evidence-based practices, as you've heard from literacy and mathematics, they're really focusing on strengthening high-quality instruction at Tier 1 with the work that they're doing. And we instituted and implemented an MTSS implementation team in the middle of last year to continue the work from the steering committee. We worked with district teams such as inclusive education and multilingual ed to really drive home that an MTSS structure is not a pipeline to an IEP. It is really to support our students in what they need, and in fact, a multilingual plan or an IEP, those are their access to Tier 1 to quality tier 1. So this year we've continued leveraging the implementation team as we really collect stakeholder voices. So there continue to be members from the district office on that implementation team, as well as school leaders, teachers, paraprofessionals. We did have a CBO, a community-based partner, on the implementation team, but they had to back out earlier this year, so we're still trying to figure out who we can add to the team. The team has been now divided into subcommittees to really focus on certain things, one being secondary and what an MTSS structure looks like at the secondary level, what interventions look like at the secondary level. We also have another subcommittee looking at the MTSS tool that we're looking to create, which I'll talk about in a minute. But we're really trying to gather that stakeholder voice to ensure that everyone has buy-in and understands the need, this need for our students. This year, we've also been offering professional development opportunities, not only an overview of sorts in terms of KSD's MTSS structure, but as you heard from literacy and mathematics, teams have also been able to engage in things like BTCM, PD, Be Glad, through our multilingual ed partners. And we really find that even though there's a mix of modality, whether in person or asynchronous, that it's allowed our community to engage with this work and really think through what does this look like for our students. We've also calibrated in the district office, and that work continues in terms of strategies and resource mapping for tier 2 and tier 3 specifically. So not only do we need to ensure that we're delivering high quality instruction to our students, we need to make sure that when they need an additional layer of support, we have progress monitoring tools readily available to determine, hey, are they actually making the improvements that their intervention plan says in terms of the goal. And so that work continues and that calibration across the district office continues as well as with our schools. So at the end of this school year, the upcoming milestones that we're looking forward to is seeing that at least 80% of our schools are showing growth in 2 of the 5 domains, and 100% of our schools are at full implementation for team-driven shared leadership, because that is one of the domains, and we know that MTSS structures are stronger once you have team-driven shared leadership in place. And the final milestone is that the strategies and resource mapping has been completed, and we can move forward in the next phase of that. The next phase of that will be to determine, more than likely create, an MTSS tool that allows us to track, or I guess I should say monitor, intervention plans across the district. And some people have asked the question, well, why do we have to do it at the district level? Why can't we just continue what we're doing at the school level? And one of the reasons is coherence and consistency, but also the new legislation that's coming for the changes to specific learning disability eligibility and moving away from the discrepancy model and solely using response to intervention. So it's really important that we have a coherent system that we can all easily go into and be able to tell the story about how our students are improving. And with that, I will pass it to Carol.
Thank you. Well, good evening. I'm Carol Cleveland, the Executive Director of Partnerships. And in the quest to broaden student access to career-connected learning experiences for all students and strengthen relationships with cross-sector entities who agreed to help us successfully prepare our kids for their futures, I am pleased to share that our Partnerships Department, CTE, Career and Technical Ed, and Teaching and Learning STEAM Assistant Director John Rismuller are likely the luckiest and well-positioned group in Washington State when it comes to creating career possibilities for our K-12 students via leveraging financial or in-kind resources and leveraging external expertise. So I want to take a moment to define what I mean when I say career-connected learning. That includes the whole WASTEM career-connected continuum of career awareness at the elementary level, career awareness and exploration at the middle school level, and career awareness, career exploration, career preparation, and career launch at the high school level. And when I say cross-sector partners, I'm thinking about city government, state government, nonprofits, foundations, colleges, et cetera. And you'll hear more later. So the last time I talked with you all, I had about an hour to go into detail. So tonight, I will be brief, okay? And so what you should know in terms of the work summary, we've expanded partnerships that have led to broadening student access to career speakers, to worksite tours, to career fairs, after-school STEM clubs and challenges, internships, apprenticeships, dual credit course access, industry-recognized certifications, and good-paying jobs. And so also when I say partnerships, do know that all partnerships matter. Our partnership, though, varies with entities. So with that shared, when you think about the partnership that we're focused on in trades, we're partnering with ANEW for Constructing Futures, Rotary Sunrise, the Flint Group, which includes As You Wish Electric and Southwest Plumbing, DeWalt, which is the leading American manufacturer for the tools, power tools, the Northwest National Construction Alliance 2, which includes 400 contractors, 14 unions, and 5 KSD apprentices. Also, the Western State Regional Carpenters Union. We're wrapping up a 9-week summer paid internship program off-site, and we are engaging with Kent Schools Foundation, and then we have other entities already loaded that we need to circle back to, which includes colleges and some large companies, actually. When it comes to aerospace and space, we have the most partnerships in this area, and this includes 2 different local and regional or statewide aerospace and space roundtables. And so if I were to start with the Kent Valley Roundtable Group, which we have a significant partnership with, it includes 26 Kent Valley aerospace and space C-suite CEOs, 4 school districts, 4 city governments, aerospace association colleges, and aerospace training intermediaries. Some you'll hear back about soon. In the other group, we have a similar mix, but when I was in that meeting last, it also went to Canada. People out of the country was there, and Eastern Washington was there. Same concept, but you should know we just won a $2.6 million grant in one group, and we just went out for a huge NASA grant in the other group, with WASDM being the fiscal agent. We've expanded our collaborations with Boeing. They already come in and certify our automotive classes as BPET, which gives kids an advancement when considering for hiring. They do our Core Plus instructor training, and we have double-digit summer internships with them, and I just entered a 6-figure agreement, 3-year agreement with them and an aerospace intermediary company, along with the Eastern Washington district. So if we get the grant, it would be a $750,000 grant. We have expanded our partnership with AJAC, thanks to the Port of Seattle and the City of Kent. We are now recruiting 7 apprentices. We just hosted a roundtable last week where employers are agreeing to hire our students as well, and this is a true apprenticeship program with industry-recognized credential. We expanded our partnership with SchoolSync and Clover Park Tech. We have double-digit students interested in our Advanced Manufacturing and Leadership Academy Run and Start program, and we're going to circle back because we also have another college and an aerospace company who has interest. Moving on to healthcare, we were able to expand services around student wellness in our healthcare department. However, we did pause our upcoming fall launch of bringing back our medical pathways at Kent Lake. We do have a commitment from both Renton Tech and Clover Park Tech to launch in the fall. Moving on to our technology, I'm waiting to hear back from a grant that I wrote with Green River College to have a cybersecurity program at Kent Station, co-taught by a KSD teacher and a Green River professor. I pulled in IBM into the conversation, so they have a commitment. Puget Sound ESD has a commitment in that, and I have 2 large tech companies who are going to circle back to, and then our own IT department said if those kids earn their CompTIA A+ certifications, they will hire them as interns or have them intern the following year. Upcoming milestones, just know that we're recruiting currently for the AJAC Aerospace Production Technician program with us. Also, the new Constructing Future Summer program, the Western States Regional Council Carpenters program, a DSHS and AJAC and KSD program for students with disabilities, 504 IDA or any other known ones. And then we also are recruiting now for Summer Future Ready Career Exploration for the Deaf and Blind of Heart Hearing student event. that connects students directly with employers. And then finally, that picture up there, Sounds Careers in Healthcare. That represents a long-term partnership with WAPS, Washington Alliance for Better Schools, 11 other school districts, 4 partner colleges that are in our core group for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And basically, it's our students in the CTE classes are learning about healthcare, and then they're taking that experience and knowledge, and we bust them up. This year it was UW Seattle, because they are part of a core group we have. And there's about 650 students clip that you see that we all pulled together. 8 or 9 of those students are Kent School District students. We brought them back here, we surveyed them, and we ran a bus to Green River with 109 students on it recently, so they can engage with the healthcare faculty staff out there, eat lunch with them in their restaurant, talk about FAFSA, WASFA, and what all those other things they need. And so at the end of the day, you know, Green River, we have 52% of the kids who are college going, 31% goes to Green River. And about 20% goes to UW. The rest are minuscule, and we're working on getting kids to complete, getting outside of our box, not just to get land, but we need to follow through. And part of the Gates Foundation work is tracking them, sharing data, et cetera. So I think that's all I'm going to share for tonight. Thank you. And next, Sabrina.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sabrina Bays, the Assistant Director of Equity and Employment Support, and I have the privilege of providing an update regarding student leadership opportunities. I joined the efforts of Dr. Behringer, who got this started last year with student leadership opportunities through middle school and high school advisories specifically. And I also want to mention the support of Elisa Aguayo Munoz, who also joined us to support these advisories and the work of these amazing students who join us for monthly meetings at this point. And so these are meetings with our middle school students, representatives from every school who join us via Teams. And then the following day, we are joined by high school representatives from each of those schools who also join us via Teams to support authentic two-way communication in service of shared decision-making. And I can expand upon that a little bit more as we go through. But for a summary of the work, in those meetings, what we decided to do is to add some structure and to utilize an amazing tool, which is the Panorama Student Survey that the students take in the fall and then take again in the spring. And by doing so, what we were able to do is to provide a foundation and some common language around aspects of school that affect students, their learning outcomes. And so now that we've built that shared understanding, I can share a little bit more later about some potential opportunities that we've found through this work. So by using that framework, we offered students an opportunity to select where they wanted to go with the conversation. Under that framework, the students themselves selected that they wanted to first talk about sense of belonging, then about school climate, then about self-management, and finally, supportive relationships. And by doing that, what we did is deconstructed the questions that are provided to them in the Panorama survey. And as you can imagine, we were enlightened by the number of responses. But most of all, I'll say that later, when the students took the spring survey and we saw the outcomes and especially those open form responses, we found that our students truly are leaders in that they were speaking to exactly what their fellow students were experiencing. And so much of what they were recommending during these meetings matched exactly what their fellow students were experiencing in the schools. And so through that, they were able to show that they truly are leaders. And so as we went through those questions, they would not only share personal experiences, but then for a more focused approach, we would talk about what actions we could take from month to month. And so really showing them that they can either take action themselves amongst their own friend group, or they would set actions that they would want to take within their classrooms to change the environment and the setting, or even to increase communication amongst those at their school, especially their administrators. Now that they had the language to speak to and the motivation to support what they were seeing around them, we tried to be more clear about other two-way, authentic ways to communicate with the people and the staff in their schools. So by partnering with the students, we were able to gather a lot of information around how socio-emotional aspects and experiences do affect learning, which we know, but these were more specific, authentic experiences related to their lives as they are now. And as we know, the environment contributes a lot to that, both inside the schoolhouse as well as outside of it. And so a safe space was also created through these student advisories, and we were able to model that. As far as upcoming milestones, we did have our final regular meeting where we discussed some of the actions that they took regarding supportive relationships and enhancing those in their immediate space, in their classrooms. And we have one shining star of a student who went on to create a project with her administrators that you may hear about down the road, based on the outcomes of some of the conversations that happened during these advisory opportunities. We did analyze the spring data from Panorama, and now with that foundational piece, those conversations really became much more fluent to the students. And finally, we do have a board meeting presentation set on June 10th that we're preparing for. So again, that leadership aspect, preparing a presentation and making sure that they are representing their school communities when they present there. We'll be working right alongside them to prepare them to do that. For potential future opportunities, a lot of the feedback was around really the intentionality behind the selection of the questions and really sort of diving into what Panorama can and can't do, but how the customization of Panorama is a real opportunity to gather information more intentionally. There were a lot of question marks sometimes with certain questions. And the students were really amazing at giving suggestions for how we might change or adapt even the survey, as well as their school environments. And then just expanding upon two-way communication, so being more intentional about sharing the outcomes of these meetings with their building administrators, for example, who might themselves be seeking additional opportunities to connect with students, and to maybe tackle some of those aspects that are keeping them from really being able to explore their maximum potential for learning in their existing environment. And finally, maybe more partnerships with district leaders to come into those meetings and share the projects that they're doing. We had some representatives from the AI team who wanted to know more from our students, and they knew where to go for those voices, and that was to these student leaderships and these middle and high school advisories. So thank you for your time. I really find it an honor to be able to speak to the amazing work of our students in their advisories.
Good evening, I'm Brian Smith, Director of Athletics and Activities. First off, it's quite an honor to be sitting at the table with so many subject matter specialists. I do think athletics and activities have a lot to add. Some of you know the last couple of years we have run quite a bit of data on graduation rates, and participation in athletics and ASB activities play a critical role in student belonging, engagement, and success. As a matter of fact, any of our kids that participated in one activity or athletic sport had a 98.6 graduation rate. And so I'm proud of that statement. And I know that if we can involve every kid, our graduation rates will go up. And so I appreciate that. And again, thank you for having me here. The last couple of years, we have fully implemented final forms into our athletics and activities registration process. This system allows us to centralize participation data, identify non-engaged students, and disaggregate data, school and student subgroup to better understand equity gaps. schools are beginning to use this data to move from awareness to targeted actions. In the last couple weeks, I've been able to share with the schools not only the participation rates for gender, but also for race and ethnicity. And so looking at schools' populations, they can directly look at this data and figure out where they're missing. On top of that, this year we also used the OSPI participation survey to figure out what kids want. And we know that that's given us quite a bit of success because in the last 3 years, we've added girls badminton at the middle school level that averages 70 kids participating. With that, this is the first year since I've been here in 6 years that our middle schools now are underserving the boys for Title IX. And I can thank that on badminton. A lot of people question me on badminton. I said, just wait, just wait. Also, a very big success story has been our flag football, that we were one of the first school districts to add that. Kent Meridian, for example, had 94 girls turn out for that sport. We had 3 levels from varsity to C, and that's pretty amazing for that school because we struggle with girls turnout at every sport. And so, very impressive data. Excited to share that. The other thing that we looked at is kind of the big gap that occurs between middle school and high school. We see around the state 30% decrease in participation between middle school and high school. Last year, we had a plus 5% increase in our participation. I do think I can put that, back onto flag football and some of the things that we're doing that get some kids excited to turn out. But that was our focus when we opened up Canyon Ridge and we looked at a middle school group and trying to keep kids engaged. We have focused with our schools on what we call vertical alignment, making sure that our coaches are in contact with kids that are on their way to their school. It's important that we build relationships with our kids. As we encourage our schools to look at this data, it's also important that as most of you recognize your teams, I have a cohort of close to 400 coaches out there that I work hard to make sure that they understand that winning state championships, while it's a great goal, it's not our only goal, and it's to gain participation, to convince kids that they can do whatever they want, and if they set their goals and set their standards correctly, they can achieve those goals.
Director Smith, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yes.
Not because I don't want to hear you, but because I
Yes.
very much do. We are at time, but I propose that we extend the session till 6 p.m. and bump any additional sessions that we have out by 15 minutes. Great, thank you. So we are going to go ahead and extend this meeting until 6 p.m. And so that gives everybody time to be able to finish contributing. So my apologies for interrupting.
I was wondering what the panic was across the room. Like,
No, we're just looking
did
at
I
time.
misquote something?
And I didn't want to stop you mid-sentence. So
Thank you. I'm almost done.
Oh, you're wonderful. Thank you.
We, as far as connection tools, when we look at the slide, my office is working really hard with promoting Instagram, getting our kids' names out there, but also really promoting our coaches and the great things that are happening in our community with our coaches and our kids. If you haven't been on there, the KSD Sports Zone, it's worth looking at. We have a lot of input from our coaches as well as our student athlete leadership team. On top of that, we have grown a library of YouTube videos that we call 10-minute huddles that are specific to our coaches being better and understanding our student populations and trying to get the best for them. And so that's all I have.
So good evening. My name is Irene Aguilar, she, her, ella pronouns. I am the Director of Equity and Employment Support, and I am here today to talk about some affinity group sites that have been created. But before I dive in, I want to give just a super brief history of how we got to where we are at today. So about 3 years ago, the initiative came upon bringing affinity groups to the Kent School District. We also partner in HR, my colleague Sabrina Bays and I, with Puget Sound, ESD, to collaborate with other school districts in the area that are doing the similar work. So as we were working on bringing in affinity group sites, getting guidance from PSESD as far as what were other districts doing, one of the first things that we did was reach out, or one of the first suggestions was start reaching out to see what's happening currently in KSD. From that research, we found out that we had a couple of groups actually that were doing affinity-like work. One of them, the first ones, was our Kent Educators of Color Network. We also had our mentors that were also doing some type of affinity group base within their work. And also we had one of our own leaders doing a Black leader affinity group site. So from there, just continuing that conversation as far as, hey, the district would like to partner with you. What are some things that you are noticing that we would be able to help out with? One of the groups that we first interviewed was our Kent Educators of Color Network. So what they mentioned was that sometimes our new employees would not find out about their group until either months later or sometimes even years later, as far as that group even existing. So continue to have those conversations as far as, tell me a little bit more about what your group looks like. We're just super impressed with just the responses of having facilitators, the way that they prepped for any of their meetings, feedback loops. So just that's where our journey continued with them. So where we are at now, so from there, one of the things that we began doing in human resources is ask them for just a slide for our PowerPoint deck for our new employee orientation, so that when we hired new employees and they were coming to new employee orientation, we would be able to share that information. Hey, and here is our Kent Educators of Color Network. This is how you can connect with them. So that's where the work originally started. So from there, I am happy to share that now 2 different sites have been developed in SharePoint. So in order to have access to SharePoint, you do have to be a district employee to get access to those. One of the first sites was, which you'll see at the top there, is for our Kent Educators of Color Network. It has the information where we now will be able to direct our new employees from new employee orientation to go to the site if they would like to join, if they would like to know more, how would they connect. And the other site that you see on there is an affinity group site. So many times there are some people or some of our own colleagues and employees that do not even know what an affinity group is. So then that second SharePoint will serve as that, give information of what is an affinity group. There is a tab on the side where they could see what affinity groups have been developed and how they can join those sites. But also if there is one that you would like to start that you don't see on there, there's a Microsoft Forms now embedded into it where you can start that process of requesting to build an affinity group site. That would come over to us, and then we would be able to review it to start that process. That's going to be helpful because now there's actually going to be a process and filtered, but we're really using the Kent Educators of Color Network as that model for any future affinity group sites that are built, so giving just a clear process where there would be a process, and then there would be a process that would come over to us to connect them to IT to get that SharePoint side developed for them. This is their space, so the sites are going to have general information, some resources And then once they connect with those groups, then they would be able to have access to even more information there. So let's see here. So for next steps, we are going to be sending out, so in Staff Link, there is a way to send out that communication that, hey, this is now built and developed, so that for our existing employees that are not aware and have already gone through orientation can still receive that same information. And then from there, we actually have some other sites that are in the pilot phase. So we have other groups that had already shared interest. So under the Ken Educators of Color Network, there's also the neurodivergent group that they have under their wing. They have the rainbow group that they have. And so there's other ones that are already in the works. We hope to have those ready by the summer. And in the summer, that's when we start the new employee orientations also for the 26-27 school year. Aside from all of this, I know that Marcy Barril mentioned the PR problem. So aside from our educators of color, there are other groups that are educators of color that belong to. So that's part of the other group or the other work that we are planning to work on. So for example, we have Care Grant, we have our equity council that's doing some BIPOC PD, Nakia Academy. Sometimes we have educators of color that might belong to one and to the others, or might belong to another group, but not this one. So holistically, just being able to continue to get the message, excuse me, out there. So I think I'll conclude with that.
Thank you so much, Priority Initiative leaders, for a thorough, extensive update for our board. I sincerely appreciate all of you this year in this work. I now open it to President Margell and to our board members for questions.
Thank you very much. We have about 5 minutes, and so I will ask each board member to ask one question, and then we'll go back around. That wasn't directed at anyone in particular. And then we'll go back around if we still have time, if that's okay. Director Cook, would you like to start us off?
I was wondering, are we going to be able to ask questions in the regular meeting when we have this larger presentation? Because I do have some questions, but they're going to be more than one, so I don't want to take up time with that right now.
Are you talking about the specific presentation that we were going to get, I believe it was on CTE? No.
Just whenever our next meeting is on how this progress is being made or what have you. Are we not having a larger presentation with additional time? Because right now we're looking at, just a couple of minutes. So
future meeting. Are we going to have this at a future board meeting?
This is the meeting.
Correct.
This is the meeting, Director Cook.
Okay. We've got 4 minutes, so I guess I will ask my questions via email. Thank you.
Is there one that you would like to present?
There's not enough time.
Okay. Director Williams.
I do feel targeted. Okay, I had to narrow it down, but my question is for Dr. Avery. You talked a little bit about the small groups and the targeted feedback cycle. I'm really interested in that. Can you give me some examples of skills that are being targeted for staff and for teachers?
Well, it's different for every teacher because they get to pick. And so it's really a conversation starter, only about 5 minutes long. In your practice, what is something you want to work on? Sometimes the teacher invites the administrator to come in, and together they pick because they have blind spots. And so it's a collaborative effort, really led by the teacher, and then observations and feedback 2 or 3 times.
Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, I can think of a time in an elementary school where there was strong voice was really what the teacher wanted to work on. Another one would be 100%, where you give a direction, not all students follow, yet you move on. And so really teaching the teacher what 100% means and teaching that to students.
So that
Wait
teach
time.
like a champion stuff.
Yes, a lot of teach like the champion, because you can name it, and if you can name it, you can replicate it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Director Gregory.
I have a question about MTSS, and I know that I know there's legislation, or has it already passed for the requirement? I can't remember if it's on the docket or not. That's what I thought. It is requirement. We're working towards that now. So I want to commend you for acknowledging that it's going to be coming, and we're not waiting until that year to then roll out some tool. So I appreciate you guys forward thinking and looking at that. And I know it's a lot of effort and work to do that, because you got to find something that will allow us at a district level to be able to see that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have more than one question too.
Okay, I do too. We'll circle back around. STEM, City of Kent partnership, talked about that. I heard a lot about so many opportunities, and I know you can't even name them all. Can you talk a little bit about the awareness and how we get students involved in actually doing these? Because that seems like that has been a gap.
I agree, and thank you for asking. And so currently, we are advertising the opportunities out to our CTE staff. We have over 200 staff, and all the secondary buildings have career specialists. The career specialists provide schedules of us for all the field trips for taking kids off site for the year, and as well as help, and they collaborate with CTE instructors and other people, staff in their buildings, to bring people on site. When it comes to particularly internships and apprenticeships, they're often more, they're more restrictive in terms of the position the student needs to be in. Maybe an upcoming on-time graduating senior who can afford to be off campus from 9 to 2 every day for 5 days a week. Or it could be second semester seniors. We have Torque Lift that does welding. They've hired about 12 of our seniors. One just started their own business, but they only want them second semester. When it comes to the specialty areas, what we do is we go back through the career specialists, we talk to counselors, et cetera, regularly, and then we bring people into the buildings during the school day, and they all meet, and then we have parent information sessions. We're running an information session next week. It's part hybrid, so it's going to be virtually and in person at KM for the AJAC production technician program. And so, but only those students who express interest, who met certain criteria, would be invited along with their parents. And so there's a lot of work to do. There is a information awareness gap with staff, and so we're going to work on that. We just bought software to open up communications between our CTE staff, our external industry partners, and admin, so that we can plan better together, see who's engaged in what, letting people opt in from the community. So that we're doing a second rollout, I believe, next week on that, to target people. And then we want to do a CTE after hours. And so that will allow the community to directly engage with our CTE staff. But it looks like it'll be probably next year when we launch that. So I agree. We need to do more communication with stakeholders, particularly students and parents.
Thank you very much. I do see that we're at time, but I want to give just a moment to Superintendent Vela.
Thank you. I want to just take a moment to thank our team, some phenomenal work, and I know the work that has been done over the years to be where we are today. So I want to thank your leadership, each and every one of you, and your areas of responsibility. I know it takes a team and not an individual, so thank you.
Thank you very much, and I apologize, I know, to everybody that there's a lot of questions and so much interest in all of the work that's happening, and I know that's work to get here today, but even more of the work that's going in every single day, so thank you for your dedication to that and to our students. It is now 6:02. We are adjourning for an executive session for 15 minutes. The purpose of this executive session is to discuss potential litigation and the legal or financial risks of a course of action. We will return at approximately 6:15. 6:15, we are going to extend this executive session by an additional 15 minutes. We will see you approximately at 6:30. It is 6:31. We are going to extend this executive session by an additional 15 minutes. We will be back approximately at 6:45.
you.
It is 6:45. Our executive session ended at 6:41. We are adjourning to executive session number 2. The performance of the, pardon me, I'm sorry. The purpose of this executive session is to evaluate the performance of a public officer or employee. We'll return at 8:15. Just to go through, the meeting was attended by Director Cook remotely, Director Williams, Director Gregory, and myself in person. We will see you after the end of executive session number 2. Good evening. It is 6:55. Our executive session number 2 adjourned at 6:52 p.m. It was attended by Director Cook remotely, Director Williams, Director Gregory, and myself in person. We are now adjourned. It is 6:55. Have a good evening.